So at least, I mean, like I said, worst case, I can do that, and then I should be able to download it from there. But I'll run the
Yeah,
audio.
got it. Yeah.
Okay. Done redirecting to YouTube. Cool. Should be cool.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Done redirecting to YouTube. Cool. That's not good. I have to get. The only thing is, it's good. I just have to get headphones then because I don't want an echo. Give me a second.
You can show off the guest star for a bit. Yeah, give me the guest star for a little bit. You might be getting live streamed on YouTube though. You good with that?
That's not good.
Just a little guest star.
Good. The only thing is, it's good. I just have to get headphones then because I don't want an echo. Give me a second.
Show off the guest star for a bit. Like the Broncos by 3. Give me the guest star for a little bit. You might be getting live streamed on YouTube though. You good with that? That's not good. Guest star.
Good. The only thing is, it's good. I just have to get headphones then because I don't want an echo. Give me a second.
Show off the guest star. Like the Broncos by 3. Give me the guest star. You might be getting live streamed on YouTube.
Is anybody else getting that echo?
Yeah, we're all getting it.
You're all getting it. How's he doing?
He's doing well, 3 months in, man, they get big real quick. But he's like wearing like 6 month and 9 month clothing.
He's only 3 months.
He's only 3 months. Exactly. He's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
Everybody's getting that echo.
Yeah, we're all getting it.
I think my guy was wearing like when he was 6 months, he was wearing like 9 month stuff too.
But he's like wearing like 6 month and 9 month clothing.
He's only 3 months.
Exactly. He's a big boy. Talk of the week.
Big boy.
Talk of the week. Yeah, we're all getting it.
What's his? He's got to be in the high percentile. 6 months, he was wearing like 9 month stuff too.
He's taking like 90% in both his head and his weight. He's getting ready to play linebacker.
There you go. Yeah, my guy was 85 on height and then 50 on weight, so he was in the middle of the pack for the weight.
Yeah, the lock of the week. Both his head and his weight.
I'll be back in a second.
Linebacker.
There you go.
I guess
My guy was
is going to be
85 on height and then 50 on weight, so he was in the middle.
She's like, say hi, Uncle Joey.
Just chilling out.
Living his best life, man. This is the easy times. No bills to pay. All I do is sleep and eat. Yeah, go eat up his milk. No, it's fine. Rob just went away. If anything, I'll put him on the side. He can watch from a distance.
The echo is really bad.
Yeah, I think it's because it's on YouTube. I got like 10-second delay.
Oh,
No, it's fine. Rob just went away.
Okay, we're good. I just ended up turning off the my audio on the YouTube.
Okay. Alrighty. Whenever you're ready, I shall put him to the side. Sorry, buddy. Trying to do it. Don't have to be too loud. Okay.
All right, you boys ready?
Yep, whenever you're ready.
We're gonna go live.
We're gonna go live.
All right. Hello, everybody. September 14th, week 2 of the NFL season on the block in here for our second part of the season here. Joe Rafari, Rob DeSona, Igor Henriquez. Rob, welcome back. Your thoughts on week 1 and maybe a little bit on Bo Nix?
it's very demoralizing, I'd say. I was so excited after the preseason, but I was thinking about it. Is there a worse place to start your career than
Against
like
TJ Watt?
that's probably the second worst thing, but like in Seattle, where it's probably the toughest road, the biggest home field advantage. He played in the Northwest. Like it was just such a bad start. But he was very inaccurate. His arm didn't look as strong as it did in the preseason. I am I'm a little bit worried now.
Igor, let's talk about that. I mean, let's call a spade here. I lost in the Survivor in week one, and I was not happy. And I always, I never play it safe. That's been my thing. Never take the big favorite. We all kind of went on here. Obviously, I don't think anybody had New England. I do remember saying though that I was really worried that everybody was betting on Cincy, even on the spread. You were finding it hard for people to take New England on the spread there in the 7 or 6.5, 7.5, whatever you had it at. They look terrible, but I mean, as we know, week one to week two, a lot of big changes, a lot of adjustments. Talk about your Pats for a bit, and any other thoughts on week one.
Well, I mean, I I had the Patriots being one of the last teams to win a game simply because the schedule didn't look like it was gonna be very favorable for a while. But I'm watching the Bengals game. I'm like, it's one of those games like NFL where everything sort of goes your way. The Bengals fumble on the 1 yard line, a touchdown gets called back, another fumble on the kickoff. The reality is, if you lose the turnover battle significantly during games, you're more than likely going to lose the game. And everything went the Pats' way. Nothing really went right for the Bengals. And that's just basically how it worked out. I was impressed with how the Pats ran the ball. And basically I wasn't too impressed with the Bengals in terms of their efficiency on offense. Again, no T. Higgins. Chase looked a little bit off, but like I said, those turnovers and critical moments pretty much was the recipe of the game. So if the Bengals convert those situations, they probably don't cover the spread, but they probably win the game. So it was like one of those bad beats, and there were a lot of bad beats in week one.
Was Joe Burrow that bad? Like is there something still wrong with his hand?
Or like the wrist, yeah. Like that's the only thing I was thinking of. I mean, like first of all, their defense is not the same. I think that their defense kind of helped them a lot that year. They went to the Super Bowl. Obviously, everybody was in peak form. It was Chase's rookie year, I believe. But I mean, yeah, like I didn't watch the entire game because biting whatever nails I had left on my fingers. But it was rough. It was rough. He definitely didn't look good. And I know we'll get to different teams here at some point, but I mean, the Bills are a team that a lot of people wrote off. Obviously, the dead cap with trading Diggs and didn't have too many wide receivers anybody knows about. But I mean, they look great. And Cincinnati's a team. I mean, after week one, yeah, sure, there's week one overreactions, but I don't think any Bengals fan. We talked to Brandon. We had to talk him off the ledge. Like, it's not looking good, right? And I mean, you're going to Arrowhead this weekend, so things don't get better. I know people are talking about the past where they have their number, but I mean, those days are gone.
I don't know. I mean, they sound supremely confident. You got cornerbacks making fun of Worthy. You got Chase saying that they're still the team to beat in the conference. So they're going in real confident going into Arrowhead. I don't believe they should be considering what they did last week, but they've usually been a team that starts off the year badly. I think that's a historic thing where usually in week one they're terrible. Um, and again, you don't want to have too much of an overreaction, but you would anticipate they would start this year 0-2 because I don't see them winning at Arrowhead.
I don't either. But I mean, let's just get into last week's picks. We'll talk about those quickly, and then we'll get into this week. So, I mean, last week, Igor, we can go over yours. I mean, I know you're not too
Oh,
happy about it.
oh my God.
Lamar had some words for you in the other group, but we'll start off with Igor here. So you had the Jets plus the 4.5, Cincy minus 7.5, Houston minus 3. Did they end up covering that one?
No, they only won
No.
by
It was
two.
2, right? That's what I thought. Yeah. Cleveland minus a 2.5. We'll talk about Deshaun maybe a little bit later. And Detroit, I mean, that was a miracle win there. A miracle win going into overtime there. I mean, neither team played well, but they ended up hitting 2 of the 5, so it could have been worse. Rob, we have you as Baltimore plus the 2.5. They did cover that one, right, on that first game.
I don't know. No, it was
No,
three. They lost, or no, they lost by 6.
lost by 6. Yeah.
So that one was not. You took Philly, who ended up, I mean, surprising some people. Denver plus the 5.5. I don't think they covered that one either.
They lost by 6. That was a tough beat.
Pittsburgh, great pick there, and then Tampa, another good one. Tampa's another team that looked great. So Rob went three for 5. Brandon had Cincy and Atlanta both losses. The Giants lost. Houston minus 3 was a loss, and he had Dallas, so he went 1 for 5 with that one.
It was a nice pick.
My picks: Arizona plus 6.5. I got saved by the half point. Indy plus the 3. I won. Jets and the Rams both plus 4.5. Didn't get either of those, and I had Cleveland, which I was not looking forward to, 2.5. So I ended up hitting 2 of them as well. Getting into this week, I guess we'll go to you, Rob. Anything you like so far?
Some really funny, like for me, some really funny spreads, like Detroit minus 7 against Tampa. That's an awfully big spread for two teams that looked
evenly matched.
like but very different. Like Tampa looked really convincing in week one, and Detroit, like they were fine. Like I don't think they played bad. I think they were fine. That's a Super Bowl. Like for me, that's one of the Super Bowl favorites in the NFC. I think that this might be Detroit's year, but for that to be -7, like that's like that looks like a hook line for sure to me. Like they're Vegas is looking for you to for you to bet Tampa here. So I'm not gonna have the stones to play Detroit, but I think that that just screams like something's up.
I had heard or listened to something. So Antoine Winfield's out and safety. I don't know if he's over the season. I heard they have a lot of injuries in the secondary. That's the only thing I could think of that they can't match up with all the weapons that they have there. And their cornerback McCollum apparently is out as well with a concussion. So a lot of injuries. Josh Hayes out with an ankle. I think there's just a lot of injuries that kind of
Yeah.
swayed this line. If I was making the line, probably more like a 5 or something like that, 4 to 5, maybe something like that. I know maybe it
Yeah.
might be a little bit too low, but anywhere between 3 to 5. But yeah, I thought the same thing when I saw 7.5. It's back at 7 now. I was thinking the same thing. What are they trying to tell us here?
Yeah.
Who do you like in this game, anyways?
In that game, Detroit, I gotta go with. I've just seen this too many times where the spread looks fishy and you go against it. Like it's just Tampa's offense is really good. Like they're like give Baker Mayfield credit. He resurrected his career last year. They have a pretty good line, like good weapons. But something just smells like I just too fishy. And I'm high on Detroit, man. I think Detroit's like a legit team, and Dan Campbell, like all the credit in the world, man. That was a shocker how good of a coach he's become in the league.
We were talking about that last time, Rob, last week, just about how remember when Campbell and the Philly coach that I'm drawing a blank on.
Sirianni.
Sirianni, yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were making fun of both of them, crying at their press conferences. We said these guys are both a bunch of jobbers, and then
Yeah,
I mean, Sirianni's had a bit of a ride. Like he lost both the coordinators after the loss in the Super Bowl. We talked about that last week, but I
he's
mean,
also got a he's also got an easy roster to manage. I mean that Philly team is. We'll talk. I'm going to talk about them later because that's one of my picks. They're loaded.
yeah. And then I was going to say with Tab before we move off that, I mean, Evans and Godwin, it seems like they've been there forever, and they're still, I mean, look just as good as they did a few years ago. Okay, Igor, any of the games you wanted to mention?
I mean, there's some. So that game, for example, I agreed with Rob with the whole situation that line looks fishy. I think, like, and then you mentioned it later that the secondary is pretty busted for Tampa. Tampa usually plays some pretty good defense, but like I said, with all those weapons in Detroit, that might be an interesting situation. Um, I mean, some of the lines are definitely interesting. I'm probably going to get into that later, but like, for example, Indy only getting 3 at the Packers. I mean, I know the Packers are at home, but with Willis at quarterback, that looks like a very inviting situations for the Colts there because, like I said, the one thing I learned from week one and going again, it was a traumatic 1-4 situation is that trusting teams with bad quarterbacks even when it comes to the spread stuff is a disaster because if you just go down all the picks, usually the teams that had horrendous quarterbacks are the ones that ended up getting blown out the majority of week one. So, I mean, you're giving me the Colts at 3. That's a nice line considering you're trusting Willis to do a lot there. Even the 49ers Vikings, the 49ers, I know it's a short week, but 4.5 only to against Sam Darnold. No, that seems like a real sweet one there too. Because I don't really buy how much the Vikings. I mean, they beat the Giants, but then I mean the Giants are the Giants. So if you're giving me them at under a touchdown, that's a sweet line. I think at least because Sam Darnold against high end defenses, I'll take the high end defenses all day.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the San Fran one, I remember last year. I think San Fran's another team that typically starts off. I want to use the word like slow because they always end up really strong, but like they don't cover too much at the beginning of the season, and then they get into form when they just go on this tear towards the end of the season. I mean, when I saw that there, I think that's an overreaction line, like that they're looking for the fans to say they just beat one of the best quarterbacks of all time on Monday night in the bright lights. And Ayuk, like we talked about, didn't have a preseason. They're missing some guys still. Trent Williams just didn't have a preseason either, and then they should blow the doors off Minnesota, and then Minnesota probably loses by a field goal or something, right? So that's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm leaning towards Minnesota in that game only because, like we mentioned, some of these lines are so fishy that I'm trying to kind of second guess myself and kind of predict what's going to happen, even though I don't think it's what should happen.
I think Minnesota looked very convincing, and that because this line should be like 6.5, 7. I think if you told me before the season put this line, like I wish I'd done look ahead lines, but I feel like this is. I think Minnesota surprised a lot of people last week.
Yeah, and it's tough because you're going against the Giants and they're, I don't know,
Yeah,
bottom 3 team in football, but still, I mean, like you can look good, you can't look good. Other lines that I was kind of looking at that were a little bit shocking, I guess, was kind of, I mean, even Philly, like Philly 6.5 on the Monday night going against Atlanta. Atlanta couldn't get anything going. Kirk Cousins looked terrible from the time that I saw the brief moments there. Everybody kept talking about Atlanta's offense is going to be one of the best in football. I know they went against one of the best defenses. They didn't look too good. And then to piggyback on what you guys said about Indy and Green Bay, I mean, I played something small, like I picked every game earlier in the week, and I had Indy on the 2.5 too. But now that I look at it, it makes way too much sense. And why is Malik Willis getting, or only getting 2.5 points there? Something's fishy, right? So I'm leading towards Green Bay there too, even though I really don't want to.
Points.
You guys want to get into like a 5 pick already? Anything else you guys want to talk about next week or last week? Sorry.
Let's rock and roll on the picks.
All right, Igor, make your picks.
All right, so again, I'm sticking with my whole situation where I'm trying not to be talked out of going up against bad quarterbacks. So I am going to go with the Colts -3. I think they really kept pace with Houston. I thought Richardson looked pretty solid. He made some real big plays, and really that Texans game could have gone either way. So I'm going to take the Colts. Um, again, I can't trust Sam Darnold, so I'm going to take the 49ers with the 4.5. I think that'll be it. I think they'll end up beating them by 2 touchdowns. I thought that Mason kid looked great, even though C-Mac was done and he won't play again this week. He didn't play last week. For the third pick, I am going to go with the Jags. I think the Jags -3 at home to the Browns. Deshaun Watson, his burners, again, O-line can't be trusted. I like the Jaguars at home in that situation. I think the Bengals are talking too much. I think Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to be really looking to lay a beating on them because they're talking too much. And if you're only giving me 6 where I can win that on a single touchdown, I'll take that. And the last but not least, I was leaning Rams over the Cardinals because that's more of a pick 'em game. But I'm actually going to take the Sunday nighter and take the Houston Texans to win by 6.5. I thought the Bears got lucky last week with a lot of turnovers and a lot of situations. I think they're still a work in progress. I think Keenan Allen's injured. Udinesi's injured, so a lot of their weapons are a little hurt. And I think the Texans will send a message on Sunday night and win by at least 10.
I missed, so I have Indy, Jags, Houston, and sorry, I was making some picks myself. What were your other two?
So basically it was the Colts, the 49ers, the Jags, the Chiefs, and the Texans.
Rob.
Houston. I got Houston as like a pullback team this year. I don't know. I'm not buying the hype on them. But I don't mind that pick at all because Chicago, I have no idea how they covered last week. I think one of my other picks was who did Chicago play last week?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Like I had Tennessee everywhere and they kind of killed me. I'm gonna go with a little bit of a shock here. Carolina. I like a lot of home dogs this week. Carolina +5. That Carolina was getting a lot of hype in the offseason by the pros. Obviously a really, really bad start to the season. I don't think the Chargers are there yet. The quarterback, like Justin Herbert, does not look like the same guy. Like I know they won last week, but very unconvincing for me. I'm gonna take Carolina +5. I'm going against Igor here. I got Cleveland +3 points against Jacksonville. I think Deshaun Watson's going to get better and better. He's only played, I think, 10 games in 4 years is the stat right now. I think he'll get better and better. I don't typically trust Jacksonville. I'm getting 3 points here. I'm going to take them. I'm going to take Philly at home -6.5 against Atlanta, the classic Atlanta choke artist. Probably not the best spot to pick against them, but Philly's they're just so good. Their roster for me is like nobody's even close. The only thing that worries me about this game is how the travel back from Brazil is going to be. Because typically when you play at altitude, the next week you're not as sharp. But I'm getting less than a touchdown. I don't know about Atlanta. Kirk Cousins' leg does not look right. Like he was not pushing off at all on Sunday. He did not look good. So that's going to be my third one. My fourth one, I'm going to Old Faithful here. My Broncos 2.5 against Pittsburgh. I'm counting on a Bo Nix bounce back. I don't buy Pittsburgh.
You took the last week though.
I did, and he did not impress, and they killed me by half a point. So, but Pittsburgh is a team that you bet them as a dog and you fade them as a favorite. they're that team. Like Mike Tomlin, give him all the credit in the world. This guy finds a way to win and cover, but they are not covered. Like they find a way to cover when they're underdogs. They do not win as favorites. It's wild. So that's gonna be my fourth game. I had a real tough time with the fifth game because I'm with Igor. Like the Rams, another fishy game. Like I'm not high on Arizona. I'm not a Kyler Murray fan. I don't like a guy that needs incentives to watch tape. I'm not that like I'm not into that. That line is really fishy. I really wanted to take that one, but I'm gonna go with a home dog. I'm going again against Igor. I'm taking Green Bay plus the 3 points. Outside chance apparently that Jordan Loves plays, which is
I heard that. Yeah, I don't think that's
outside chance. I don't see it.
yeah, I think it's just dumb for his body.
Yeah, but even then, like Indy's a team that I think they're going to play traditionally close games, and so I'm getting a team at home plus the 3 points. I mean, this is saying that Indy's a 6 or 7 point better team. I don't know about that. Indy's fine. Like Richardson looked really good last week, but again, I'm going with the fishy line. I'm going to go with my gut and say that Green Bay finds a way to cover this. If it's 2.5, I probably don't take this. If it's 3.5, I love it. At 3, I'm like, okay, I got a push option, so I'll take Green Bay here.
Green Bay I like a lot now, and it's kind of scaring me. Because like I said, there's no like I mean, if you're making this line, I mean, you can't make it too high as a team that lost last week in Indy. What are you going to make them 3, 4, 5 point favorite? Everybody's going to take the dog there anyways because Green Bay's defense is still pretty solid. But I mean, I like all those picks, even Carolina. Like I'll lead with mine. I have Carolina plus 5, and I don't have a reason for it. I mean, Bryce looks like one of the worst rookie quarterbacks we've seen in a long time. Now, is it because he doesn't have the O line, no running game? I don't know. I mean, they addressed some issues. I mean, they got some guys on defense to come in, but I mean, last week they looked terrible. So what I was going to kind of allude to here, and I'll touch on this once I'm done my picks, is once you can kind of figure out which teams in week one you think are legit and which teams aren't, and not to get fooled by some of them in the overreactions. If you can figure that out, your next few weeks, I think you're set with who you can kind of make money with. Like if you can look at Indy and say, like, is this team legit? Are they not? Is Carolina really going to be this bad? All that kind of stuff there is kind of where you're going to make your money. Based on that, I'll roll into the rest of my picks here. So I have Minnesota. Last week I had the Giants actually beating them because I was like, if the Giants going to win one, it's probably at home. I was impressed with them. I think that I mean I don't really love the quarterback situation there with Darnold, but I think they're going to be close in games. They probably end up losing by 2 or 3. There got Minnesota plus 4.5. I have Seattle -3. Getting back to overreactions from week one with the Pats, Igor, I saw that reaction. I mean, it's Cincy. I think since like things that I think are going to happen. I think Cincinnati's defense is not good, and I think that New England is going to have trouble scoring. They ran the ball pretty good last week with Ramondre. I mean, they ran the ball really well. Wasn't doing much else. They got lucky in the turnover battle. I don't think they're going to be that lucky this week. I like Seattle's defense. They have new coordinators, new coach, and everything. I take Seattle by 3. I think Kansas City's going to blow the doors off Cincinnati. We're going to have to talk to Brandon about that next week. I think that that's going to be an ugly game. I mean, they added that wideout there. Xavier, is that who he is?
Xavier,
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks incredible. And I mean, if you're going to give Mahomes toys to play with, I mean, it's going to get ugly. We talked about their defense a few years ago being one of the worst. They addressed that in one season, and they're one of the top 5 defenses in football now. I think that since he's going to struggle with that, T. Higgins is out again, and I just don't think that Joe Burrow's himself, at least not yet. Last pick, I'm going to go with Baltimore at home. Usually, I like taking Baltimore at home. I know it's a big spread. I don't think Oakland's very good at all. I know Rob doesn't like them. I'm going to go Baltimore -8.5. So just to recap, I have Minnesota by plus 4.5, Seattle -3, Carolina +5, KC -6.5, Baltimore -8.5. And then I'll just quickly get into Brandon's picks because he left them with us. Our guy Brandon's in Vegas. We want to wish him the best fortune. Hopefully, he hits a big parlay there, does his thing. And he ended up taking Vegas since he's in Vegas. So he has Vegas as his first pick on the spread. He has the Giants. I don't know why, but he has the Giants. He has both LA teams, the Chargers and the Rams, and he has Jacksonville. So those are his 5 there. Any reactions to these picks, Igor? Go to you first.
I mean, again, the funny thing is, I was like Daniel Jones has a great record against Washington for whatever reason. That's the one team that he usually plays like really well against. I just didn't have the stones to take him because he's got like more pick sixes than he has touchdowns. So and to me the Dan Quinn defense is different. They got a whole and I think Jaden Daniels did a pretty good job the first week, even though obviously they lost the game. But I just the Giants are just in a tailspin where you can't trust them. But I mean, good on him for taking the chance. But I guess the other thing and on the picks wise, just from that Thursday game, And I know we talked about it, Jay, off camera, is that to me, like that might be the last of Tua playing football. I mean, I think it should be. I don't know what your guys' reaction is on that, but just watching the hand gestures and things like that. Yeah, I think, and that is, in terms of our betting, the Bills are still only like, I think like, is it minus 130 or plus 130 to win the division? I think that's great money value because I don't think the Jets, um, will end up. I mean, the Jets may push them a little bit, but to me, that's an easy division to call, especially if Miami has to go to a second string quarterback. They might bring back Ryan Tannehill for God's sakes. So to me,
And it's
that's
funny enough, I called that. I called that last. Remember the group chat? I was like, they might have. This was before the injury, I think I said, or maybe after. I was like, they might have to bring back Tannehill, and there he is.
so to me that division's pretty much dusted unless Rodgers comes up with some kind of miraculous situation. The Bills look decent, and I mean I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender, but in that division they look like the number one dog by far. But for Tua, I think you just should go home to your family. If you don't want to end up like a paraplegic or anything with some major issues, you should probably call it a day.
What about Russell Wilson to Miami?
I
I
mean,
mean, they could take either one of those quarterbacks there. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to trade Wilson again, but I mean, if they come calling, would you rather have Wilson or Fields?
I don't know. Watching Wilson last year, I wouldn't want either of them, to be honest with you. Joe, I really like New England. That was another one that I almost took. I don't know. I'm not a big Seattle guy. Again, another team that I don't see them
No
in this
Kenneth
spot.
Walker. No Kenneth
That
Walker.
hurts. I saw
Yeah,
that. Doubtful. I know I
that's
couldn't, but like,
and then my last thing was part of the reason I took Denver was Denver in weeks 1 and 2 at home is outside of Miami. I think Miami and Denver have two of the best home fields in the first 2 weeks because humidity in Miami in September and obviously the altitude teams aren't ready for it at this time of year. So that was one of the reasons I took Denver. I forgot to say that.
I just want to talk about probably the game of the week too. I know we only have about 5 minutes here, so try and get through it quick. New Orleans big winners last week and Dallas big winners last week. If you guys, I mean, a game to look forward to, but how do you guys think both these teams are they the phonies that they've been for the last 5 or so years, or do you think that there's hope for either of these teams?
I mean, I don't really rate either. I think, for whatever reason, the Panthers were. I know, Jay, you're on them. I couldn't pull myself to trust that situation after getting because the Saints to me are a middling team, and if you're getting blown out by that much, by I would say a middle of the road team, you got a lot of issues there. But I think the Cowboys, again, the whole Deshaun Watson situation and what are the Browns? I think that the Cowboys are a strong team at home, but like, do I think that either team is going to be a contender for much more than? I mean, I still think Philly wins the division. I'm on the fence to see if Dallas is even a playoff team, depending on what the situation is. And like Jerry Jones, for example, loses all his contracts. They're going to have to give a huge contract to Micah Parsons. They're going to be a cap strap team for years to come because they keep paying guys late. So I have very little faith in the Cowboys to do much, and I have zero faith in the Saints to accomplish much this year either.
Rob?
Baltimore and Dallas for me, like, is the old who was the Arizona coach? We are who we thought they were. Like they're just great.
Dennis Green.
Dennis Green. They're just great regular season. Dallas can do this. Like we know Dallas can do this. It's just we know in playoff time they're not going to do this. They're going to be the ones on the other end. So we know that the NFL is week to week. There's no sport that's more week to week. So you try not to overrate the big losses or underrate the big wins. So I'm not surprised with Dallas. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm not high on the Saints. I think that was a fugazi win. Not a fugazi win. Like I don't think they're as good as they
Whether they
are. I
won
think,
by 10 or they won by 30, I look at the
yeah,
plan.
yeah. Like I think Dallas is the better team here. I like Dallas. It's just they're just in the playoffs. They're going to fail. It's just we know this. It's not rocket science.
Rob, only because we didn't have you last week, we did all division picks. We don't have time to go through all of them, but the one that's probably the hardest to call, I want to get your opinion. AFC North, who do you have coming out of that?
Oh, I think it's a
Baltimore.
little bit. I'm sure probably a lot of you guys took Cincy, right? Like that
I think
was.
I took Baltimore. I have it here from last week. So I took Baltimore, Brandon, Igor, Cincy. We didn't get your pick, obviously, but they both took Cincy. Yeah.
I don't think it's even. I think Baltimore's really good. Like Baltimore probably should have won the AFC last year. They were. I thought they were the better team than the Chiefs in the AFC in the AFC Championship game. But there, I'm not gonna overrate the loss at Arrowhead first week, Super Bowl champs. I'm not gonna. For me, Baltimore's still the second best team in the AFC.
And Lamar me, like he's always a guy that I kind of struggle with because I mean, obviously, with running the ball, maybe one of the best ever. But I mean, he missed someone in the end zone. I think it was
Mhm.
they there for like an easy one. I mean, it's going to be tough if they're going to win. I mean, their defense is going to have to be as good as ever. And Derrick Henry there got an early touchdown, but they kind of didn't give him the ball towards the end.
Derrick Henry, like that. I think come playoff time, they're going to be tough. Like good defense, they can run the ball they can run the ball even better out of the running back spot now, and they can obviously run with the quarterback. So, um, they're going to be a tough out, I think, for anybody. For as much as I'm not a Lamar fan, that team's going to be tough to beat, and they're always well coached, obviously with Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh.
We got a minute and 30 left. We didn't do this last week, and so Rob, I'll give you Super Bowl pick and a Super Bowl winner. I know it's early, but who are you liking so far?
There's a guy in who's the guy in the NFL Network?
Baker.
Is it the guy who does the picks every year?
Yeah.
He hasn't missed in like 7 years. He took the Chiefs to three-peat. I like I said, guys, you saw my chat, my quote in the group chat. Like the only thing that might stop the Chiefs right now is father time or some team that just ends up loading up. I don't know how you beat these guys. They find a way to get it done. The refs seem to give them some favorable calls. I think they get a lot of help from the refs, but they're a great team. So I just until Andy Reid retires or Patrick Mahomes something happens to him, I don't know how you pick against them.
I agree. We got 45 seconds. I need to give my quick. I have Kansas City over San Fran. Igor, yours?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the situation again. I will say that that's a Super Bowl, but I will say that San Fran actually finally beats them.
Okay. I
I
like Brandon
I
talked about that last week with Shanahan finally getting over. Yeah.
Detroit for me in the NFC.
Okay. That's right. All right. We are running out of time. So we have our 5 there. We will post that and we will see you guys next week as well. Good luck, everybody, with your picks. And thanks for tuning in on the blog.